Hello, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us here on our fifth podcast that we're doing regarding the issue. Our flagship issue mainly is still the opening day of deer season here in Pennsylvania, which has become a hot button item. My partner with me here, Dan Davila, and we're going to be going through a lot of what's happened in the last week or two, and it's been quite a bit. Dan, welcome aboard, buddy.
Yep. Welcome everybody to Opening Day Sportsman. Just to go over a couple of numbers for the Facebook members. We cracked 3,100 today, and it's continuing to grow about 100 a day. So it definitely is getting some traction. An update on the survey that Senator Laughlin ran. He chairs the Pennsylvania Senate Game and Fisheries Committee. As of 2/25/12/15/2022, the Monday supporters have 4,982 votes, or 57%. The Saturday supporting cast is 3,664, or 42%. So it's run about a week now. Originally, when and Senator Laughlin was the fellow that actually put this together. So it's if anybody that's watching this that has not voted, I recommend you go. You can go two places. You can go to the Pennsylvania Hunters Against the Saturday Opener Facebook page, or you can actually go and you can weigh in on it and vote on the Pennsylvania Senate Game and Fisheries Committee website. So those are the two places. So Randy, a lot of movement this week, a lot of bantering, a lot of back and forth. And today Randy's going to go over some of the cast of characters, what their roles or lack of roles were, and how we got to where we are today. So with that, Randy, go ahead.
Thanks, Dan. Over the last few podcasts, we'd been going over different issues, and the fourth podcast, the one previous to this one, we started deciding that there was so much of the original decision-making process that was terribly, terribly disjointed from a standpoint of the comments that came out of that board in 2019, which ultimately have us here today. Like Dan said, our numbers have grown. I mean, we were at 1,200, I think, the night before the Saturday opener, and here we are today. 20 days later, 19 days later, with 3,100, and continues to grow. And with that came an enormous amount of posts on that site, likes. I got to tell you, I've handed my business reins over to my son for the last 2 weeks because this has been such an encompassing between contacts to different aspects, and it's daunting, and it's good. It's a good feeling though, because it's validating what we all know, that this Monday opener was definitely a hidden thing. It was pushed through, and there's a lot of people coming out of the walls now that don't like it. Even some that previously thought maybe, they're even expressing their dislike. Now, going back to the board issues, I wanted to make a few more points on that particular board of things that were said that were, and it's not easy to have to be, ragging on people and things like that. But this is stuff that has to be identified because this is affecting you and me, sporting wise, business wise, so forth. And for instance, one of the commissioners last time I didn't mention was Stanley Kinnick, and never spoke to Stanley, don't know him personally, but his position on this was back when they did this, that he was not getting any pushback from his district. And that comment, I knew at the time, was completely false. And I got into some things, and here's one that this is an excerpt I snipped out of a article, and this was from the Wyoming County Board of Commissioners. Now, Wyoming County is within Stanley Kinnick's district. And let me read this to you. The Pennsylvania Game Commission should start antler deer season 2 days earlier this year. They were having a discussion in their meeting. The latter was first brought up at the March 19th meeting when Commissioner Tom Henry solicited opinions from those in the audience. Feelings were mixed on the subject, but Commissioner Stabinsky said at the time that he favored maintaining the first Monday after Thanksgiving as the beginning of buck season as a matter of family tradition. That was his take on it. Since then, all three commissioners had attended the spring CCAP, which is the County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, conference, where the general consensus was that the deer season dates should remain unchanged. It kind of has become a state holiday, Commissioner Judy Mead remarked, suggesting also that local retailers and eateries had more to gain from keeping the traditional start date than they would by having hunters from outside the area arrive on Black Friday. So the things that we've been trumpeting here, you can see were identified to that board. This wasn't an oversight because they weren't made aware. Made aware for certain and ignored for certain. The next issue that in that meeting, well, if I stay even in Mr. Kinnick's district, one of the letters, we mentioned on one of the earlier podcasts that I had done, there was $360,000 impact from 10 businesses. And one of those letters came from, I believe it was from Wilkes-Barre, from a gentleman, Paul Scavone. And Paul was the owner of J&L Sporting Goods there. And Paul was adamant. And Paul even said that 9 out of 10 guys coming into his store disliked the Saturday opener. So you have a sporting goods store, a decent sized sporting goods store in that same commissioner's district, a board of commissioners doing now this proclamation was put in the newspapers, the one I had just read. So how do you say you don't see any pushback in your district? This, again, we get back to, is it fraudulent, representation, or is it incompetence? It can't be, it's got to be one or the other, but either way, there's a commissioner who's supposed to represent his district and didn't know that an actual county board of commissioners spoke out against this. Another issue was this gentleman by the name of Derek Stoner. He was a hunter outreach, still possibly is, with the Game Commission. He's a hunter outreach specialist. His job in the agency is to have his finger on the pulse of the hunters of Pennsylvania regarding like the 3 R's, your recruitment, retention, reactivation, And I want to read this. This is a transcript of his testimony to the Board of Commissioners at the March 2019 meeting. This is another one that's really, really hard to understand that the board went in the direction they did. What I've heard from a variety of hunters, and particularly the younger age demographic that Commissioner Hoover is speaking of, it is their likelihood of participation or increased participation in hunting and deer hunting, particularly with that Saturday opener, would not be positively changed at all. Their opportunity would certainly be a little bit greater with an additional day, but I believe that this is my personal opinion, that it's not going to overall boost participation in deer hunting with the Saturday opener. The gains that might be made that additional day, that new day for the opener, will likely be offset by losses from hunters that choose to participate in neighboring states' openers that same Saturday, or people that choose to protest, so to speak, that they can't continue their tradition of deer camp without the condensed time period after Thanksgiving being impacted by the 2 days earlier opener. So I think that a lot of people discussing the fact that you have a core audience of participants that have that tradition of participating with a Monday opener and going up and setting up the deer camp over the weekend and being ready for a Monday opener, that any potential increase of new participants from a younger age demographic is likely going to be offset and countered by a loss of participation rate. I don't believe it's a valuable decision or move to change the opener simply based on the potential, unproven potential, to draw in a brand new audience of participants. So there you go. A gentleman that's paid by us, our dollars, by the agency, to be the hunter outreach specialist. And when he gave his opinion that this was not going to work, they essentially ignored it. So again, we talk about, the different aspects of, why we are where we are today. going into the fourth year and seeing a current, survey being taken that is strongly in, showing the Monday as the favored day. Dan, do you have anything to add to that part here?
No, that's something that we talked about, about a number of the commissioners not having their hand on the pulse of their constituents in their areas. But yeah, I mean, it's time and time again, the scenario that they have been working under is the fact that the commissioners, I feel, have dropped the ball here, and not just him, but a number of them, and now they're dug in. They come out with that crazy survey that they did beginning of this year, and touted those numbers, and we have quite a few people that are still continuing to stick by those numbers. When in fact, the movement that we've started clearly shows a different opinion.
Exactly, and the you mentioned earlier we've been watching this Senate survey, and just for the record, for those of you that don't know about the Game Commission did that last minute phone survey of 2,008 hunters, and trumpeted it out there as 60% preferred the opener on Saturday. Well, I refuted a little bit of that in the beginning of the third podcast, but this particular poll here is of now nearing 9,000 participants. So this particular survey of the it's being done by the Senate Game and Fisheries is over 4 times larger than the one the Game Commission did here back last year, and this, of course, the one that was done with the Game Commission has been speculated as being not representative of the masses in the state. The survey was, we talked about this. It was from an out-of-state company. It was purchased by the agency. It was the question structure was part, from the Game Commission, the pool of hunters. Excuse me. So the whole thing was questionable. So now here you are, going into the fourth year and doing a survey like this. You would think if the Saturday opener was a great deal, very successful, this wouldn't have been anywhere near this type of results. And so this week has been very fast-paced. Wouldn't you say, Dan? The last 2 weeks.
Yeah, there's been a lot of movement.
Yeah, from different aspects. And the one evening I was home and I received a phone call from Representative Ryan Warner. And he told this story to me because I had talked to Ryan about this almost 4 years ago, and he was adamantly against the change. I hadn't heard much from him, because obviously we had this 3-year assessment period that never happened. And Ryan calls me up and he says, "Randy, I was with a group of hunters today. Half of them were camp hunters," he said, "and the other half were not. Not a one liked the Saturday opener." He said, "I'm moving forward with the legislation on this. The economics behind this and so forth is now being proven. We're being, I think some of the legislators, I think it was McNeil, told one of our people that their office is being bombarded with letters, emails about this, and she was going to reach up back to her chairman, which is Ed Nielsen." So this particular topic is not something that's, just a few people. It's not. And Dan and I have talked about this. The unfortunate part is we can only reach with social media the ones that do social media. And an inordinate amount of people that we speak to that enter into our group or email us in the coalition make the claim that their people, their camp, their group, most of them don't. And then whether they're older gentlemen, whether they're people that aren't involved in needing an email. I know people that are younger that don't do email. But they make the point that I represent several that are opposed to this. And we've heard this how many times, Dan? Oh, Lord. Yeah, it's constant. Yeah, it's anecdotal, obviously. Anecdotal, but it's there. I mean, I can produce the emails from our coalition to prove it. But in the short term here, we're just conveying something to our listeners that we hear constantly, But Yeah, Ryan Ryan Warner was going to reach out to Brian Smith, and he did. Obviously, he introduced the legislation here a couple days ago. Of course, it's out now for co-sponsorship and so forth. But he clearly identifies what's been put forth here for the past 3 years, 4 years of the economic side of this, and yeah, the Yeah, it was an article at goerie.com, and it was a very short top end article identifying that this legislation was now being introduced in the House. And then 2/3 of the article continued to pull out all of the skeletons that are trying to support or prop up, I would like to say at this point, the Saturday opener support. And it's really interesting. Dan and I noticed something when the survey came out from the Game and Fisheries. I was looking at it the one day, and they had a lead-in statement which was very fair. It said something along the lines, "This has been a debated issue, blah blah blah. Please take this survey." It was a fair statement. When you click on the survey, it opens up the question, and the question was structured. I'll just paraphrase it. Now that the Saturday opener has given us 2 extra days to hunt, that's the side of the people that like the Saturday. In opposition are the people that are concerned that we're losing a tradition spanning back 100 years. So do you see the subliminal thing going on there? Well, they're going to take away 2 days of hunting, but on the side of the people that support the Monday, all we've got is tradition. That's it. And
there's so much of a bigger picture here.
Yeah, I mean, Senator Laughlin's position on this, he continues to, what's the lack of a better word, be obstinate to look at the big picture. He doesn't want to accept it. He doesn't want to recognize it. And he had weighed in on our group. He actually posted on our group, and I would say, and I told our group this after the comments, we thanked everyone. They were very respectful. They brought their point across to the senator. No name calling like we see in these other groups. And but he brought on a post from probably from another site, it looked like, and it was a gentleman by the name of Matt. Think I know who he is, but I'll leave it at that. And talking about his dynamics of how the Saturday opener worked for him and his kids and his uncle's kids or his cousins or whatever it was. And, again, we're looking at a snapshot in time there with one. Now, we can present just as many heartfelt stories of the damage that it has done to hunters across this state regarding the camp culture, what we've lost with the businesses. How about let's talk about some of this business aspect? There's a lot of heartfelt stories there that I have letters from. But he stays honed in on this issue, and he will not ever, go into another lane to discuss economics, to discuss the family Thanksgiving time conflicts, to discuss the wonderful camp culture bigger than any in the state. He stays focused on strictly, while this is beneficial, we got 2 days for hunting. This is great for hunting. And there's a lot more to recruitment, retention, and reactivation than providing 1 more day or 2 more days to hunt. And I hope Sadie doesn't understand that. But
and to go along with that, Randy, on his website, and he's the chair of the Senate Game and Fisheries, he had a piece in there about in Erie, in his district, having an economic study on the fishing and the impact of economics and fishing. Yet here, and with the hunting and the Pennsylvania Game Commission, we're talking about apples and oranges. We're talking about millions of dollars, mega millions of dollars that are involved with hunting and hunters and the economic benefits that they bring to the table when they go north or wherever their camp may be. And quite frankly, it's a double standard. So how is it that you have a guy that's going to run this bill through on just the information that the Pennsylvania Game Commission gave him, without asking the questions? Well, I'd like to see how's this going to affect other parts of the hunting business. None of that was ever brought up never discussed. And in fact, we've had conversations about this before. We were told by the Pennsylvania Game Commission that's not none of their concern. They're not concerned with that. Well, this is a social issue.
Yes, they identified it as a social decision. And, Senator Laughlin, who has the support of a lot of Sunday opener support or Sunday hunting supporters, I get that. And that was coincidence. I just heard here today, Dan, I hadn't passed this on to you yet. I just found this out today. I guess he introduced the bill for Sunday hunting statewide. Is that an effort to now try to put a Band-Aid over the wounds that we're creating, that he's, not be doing his job as a legislator to be concerned about the things that he's put in office for? Wouldn't you think family time, economics, all of these things, won't even discuss it? And that's the part of this that's been very frustrating. This morning, he came on our podcast.
Not our Facebook page.
I'm sorry, on our Facebook group, and I give him credit. He tries to reach out, but he reaches out and then he steps in it. I mean, I'm going to tell you, like this morning, he posted a comment about CWD, and he feels that had something to do, or should have something to do, with declining camp hunting. That's not even something that remotely is in this topic, number one. And I came back and pulled up a study from the Game Commission, screenshot it and sent it to him, that the CWD, the chronic wasting disease, when regarding to lapsed hunters or hunters that would, come back into the sport, that was not even in the top 10. That was number 12 in a list of 19. Not my words, from this, this survey that was done by Dr. Jagno back in this was in 2019. So it shows that, the CWD thing was a deflection. You can't win on a battle that you're intending to fight, so you try to degrade the battle by pulling in side issues that may have some merit. Yeah, sure, maybe some guys are concerned about CWD and they maybe aren't hunting. That's a very good possibility. It's not in that area. That's not the lion's share of the issue. That's not what we're talking about here. This is about, so again, the deflection. And then, Dan, I might as well continue on this issue because this all kind of happened at the same time this morning. He asks me about, well, if we do a survey next year and it comes back 51-49 supporting the Saturday, would it make you happy? And I went, what do you mean make me happy? I said, I'm just the messenger. It's not about making me happy. This is about addressing the facts of this issue. And then he comes back and he does a comment, where's your camp at? And I'm like, what does that have to do with anything right now? I said, well, and I told him, I said, it's in Warren County. And I said, what may be more relative, Senator, is where is your camp at? And I knew the answer. And he did not come back and identify where his camp was. Well, we gave him some time, an hour, maybe it was longer, I don't know, a couple hours. I went back and did a post to our group. Senator Laughlin's camp is in New York. And I confirmed that last night. I heard it last night. Someone passed this to me. I confirmed it through some tax records. And that in itself is not a crime. I don't care if you have your camp in New York. But you certainly can't dismiss that what this Saturday opener has done to the camp culture of Pennsylvania. So he's got a camp in New York that pays zero taxes into Pennsylvania's economy, but yet he ignores completely the economic side of a demise of a camp or multiple camps, hundreds if not thousands, through the ruination of that weekend that the camp owners loved. So how do you do that? How do you be a legislator that's supposed to be concerned about economics and people's lives? You hunt out of state. You have a camp out of state. He may even hunt up there. I don't know. He may hunt here. It doesn't matter. But you certainly can't dismiss the economic side of this thing in relationship to the camp aspects. And that is something, Dan, I've talked about. That exacerbates into the business side. And if you read the legislation that Mr. Smith, Representative Smith, just introduced, you can pull it up. That's exactly what that legislation identifies, that this has hurt first responders terribly, and businesses, and so forth. So there's a point to be made.
I don't see. Well, we don't know where this is going to go right now. Ultimately, I think our goal here is to get this on the agenda, possibly for January. to have them reconsider it. But given the history of working with them, and I don't know that that's even the right analogy. We can talk to them if we go down to the meeting and we get up and we talk. None of that is public record. The microphones are off. So we're going to continue to keep this in the media to reach as many people as possible. And for some of the people that are out there that don't agree with us, we understand that. We do know, Randy and I both are very aware that there's going to be an element of families out there that do prefer the Saturday start. And we get that. But we are looking at the big picture for Pennsylvania in its totality, not just one little aspect of, and keep in mind, Randy, how did they sell this to us? We're going to increase youth sales by moving this opener to Saturday. And clearly the data has shown that has not happened.
No, and kind of the thing that I've said to validate what you're saying is the damages have been extremely easy to see. The tangible benefits are very few of this change. And moving forward, the compromise, and that's obviously where you need to be on something like this to some degree, would be to put that Sunday in that next upcoming weekend, create a 2-day weekend. A lot of the Saturday guys keep throwing this out to us. Well, why don't you guys that want to hunt Monday just wait till Monday? Well, how about the inverse of that? How about you guys that like the Saturday wait till the first Saturday? And let the Monday guys, that's the opening day, you wait till Saturday and hunt. It's the same thing, a difference of a day. So, that argument of waiting is not beneficial. That doesn't solve the problem of the economics or the family Thanksgiving time and all. That does nothing for that. But, we continue to push forth the data. Dr. Jagno also said something that I don't think I said this in the last podcast, and this was something I had just recently found, that she was giving a report to the commissioners at that same March meeting. And she mentioned that the majority age cohort, birth date of Pennsylvania hunters was 1961. And then she went on to say, but for the rest of the country, that age is 1989. That's 28 years difference in age structure of our hunting population in Pennsylvania versus other states across the country, she said. So when you take that into consideration, how bad of a move was it to go after the quote unquote, as the commissioner said, the old guys? Our average age here in the state is 54. Obviously that birth age cohort, which increases the age of our hunting group tremendously, and you cut into the heart of your majority, a stronger majority than any other state in the country, by denigrating something they loved in that Monday opener, and by extension, the camps and so forth. So, these things, and everybody wanted to point a finger at us and say, hey, you're not telling the truth. You're not. And I tell everyone, the legislators, we've told Senator Laughlin, Dan, we invited him to meet with us 3 times, was it? And haven't heard back. Won't sit down and talk about the data. And subsequently, here we are today, having to play this bantering back and forth crap, divisively affecting our sport, when all along, all of us knew that putting that Sunday in that weekend, leaving the Monday alone, this thing would have rolled right along. The people that couldn't hunt Monday, they'd be pumped up Friday night. Man, I got, like I was, but you, Dan, first Saturday was always a great day to hunt. And, and here we are, we're fighting this battle with the senator that's singular issue, tunnel visioned on this, and won't even sit down and look at the data. You don't have to believe me. This ain't about me. I can put the Game Commission information and the things that I'm presenting like I did today in front of him and let him assess that we're bringing the truth in. Because I think he said that today in one of his comments, that he wasn't sure about my facts. Well, meet with us. Let's talk about those facts.
Well, Randy, that survey, he is, I'm sure, surprised that they're way behind. He thought sure that survey would shut us up and make us go away with our tail between our legs. That has not happened. So now they're employing other tactics to discredit us. Again, like you said earlier in the podcast, we're just the messengers. We are grabbing and getting all the information that we can get to make sure that the people that are following us and want this change back to Monday are looking at things that are true, things that are factual, and things that are tangible. What those guys did was not do their due diligence. It was tied to the Sunday opener, and they thought, well, heck, let's just go ahead. And you remember what happened. Remember 2019? We hunted Saturday, and then you couldn't hunt on Sunday.
But not Sunday. Yeah, the squeeze play was on. And because Sunday hunting is Dan Laughlin's big claim to fame. And, whatever. Just like we said before, we're not for or against that. That's not what this podcast and our movement is about. This is about the Monday. And to show you, like, what really upset me was earlier this week, I went onto his Facebook page, and here's what he posted about my article. I did an article which has been going all over the state, an op-ed, and it's brought basically our people together in big numbers, and this has been a good thing. I don't think I mentioned this here, but it was on the Lancaster Farming. Did I mention that yet? And
no.
It had
let's talk about that.
Yeah, it was put on the Lancaster Farming site, and I was contacted today from an outdoor writer, and Mr. Vanesky, his name is, and we did this story. He wanted it because they wanted him to interview me, because this article has been so popular on their, had I think 2,400 hits or something, which is enormous, I guess, for that. And it's still at the top of the list for their readers. So that article, which is the same one that was put in the Lehigh Valley Journal, and what does Senator Laughlin post on his site? It's not gonna change, referring to the Saturday opener. And then he goes on and says, the article that was penned to the Lehigh Valley paper was just that, an opinion. So he, again, takes an article which is completely soup to nuts facts of what happened and where we're at today, and tries to, demonize it or slander it, that it's just an opinion. It's not factually based, which is baloney. And, my phone number is available anytime. Dan and I will meet him any place, and other legislators too, if need be, to sit down and have a nice adult across the table conversation about what we're bringing to the table. And we just can't seem to get that.
I think we're seeing a side of Senator Laughlin that is not, it calls into question ethics in my book, and just what kind of guy he is when he posts a post from that group, that the Pennsylvania Hunters against the Saturday opener. That's a mouthful. Yeah, and they've all called us. We're all called Elmer Fuds. They call us Fuds, and so that's a badge. I'll wear that. Yeah, and what does he do? He posts a picture of a drunk guy on opening day that misses the opening day because he's drunk, and that's the chair of the Pennsylvania Senate Game and Fisheries, so for him to go to that level, to make us out to be kind of nose pickers from the back row, so to speak, is crazy. In my mind, I could throw it back. He's all hat and no cattle. He doesn't have any he has not brought any factual things that he's done. He's done nothing other than be a messenger, just like we're being a messenger. The problem is we are being supported now by a majority of people. He is not. That district, like you said, that he controls, we're going to spend a little more time up in his district so people can really see the kind of guy that he really is.
It's unfortunate because, I've always felt concerned that we don't have enough of legislative representation in our politics in Pennsylvania, in the House and in the Senate. And Dan is obviously a hunter, but there's a difference between representation and a biased representation on an issue. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I've had contacts from senators recently that one letter to them, they reached out back to me, one in particular saying, I'm inclined to agree with you, so forth and so on. We don't get that adult interaction from Senator Laughlin. It's his way or the highway. And I think we just had a guy that posted on our group here today. He's got an ego as big as Erie County. Remember, Dan? The guy just had people that have met him. Yeah. And that's sad. That's sad that we have to, make these kind of, because we stayed on the high road for day one, and then this group came out that Dan just tried to tell you their title. I ain't gonna repeat it; it's too much. It's pictures of old men, comments off. They have a rally. All you're gonna smell is Bengay, and it's just, how in the world can a legislator, a chairman of our Senate Game and Fisheries, even consider posting on a group like that? I don't understand. I won't even give them the aspect of. There's times I wanted to go and respond on the things that they've said because they infuriate me. I won't do it. It's just, I'm not.
Last time I looked, Randy, they had 600 followers. Okay, our, it's apples and oranges, man, and ours is growing by 100 a day.
Yeah, it's very juvenile. Actually, personal attacks, and I'm going to say it. I'm not thin-skinned. They call me Scam Tucci. Okay, I'm scamming here. Yeah, right. But this is what we're dealing with, and unfortunately, Senator Laughlin feels comfortable being aligned with that group. It's unfortunate, but I don't know, Dan, if we had anything else to bring forth today. Do you think of anything that we're overlooking here?
No, I think we covered everything that we wanted to go over today. I mean, obviously, there's a countdown to the next Pennsylvania Game Commission meeting, so there's going to be some more podcasts coming up here in the next few weeks. So we'll have a game plan as to, how we're going to, and now that we have some House of Representatives introducing legislation, we're going to have a lot more work to do. There'll be additional articles coming out, as Randy said earlier. We'll be working on that, and he's going to be interviewed by Vineski, and so that we can look forward to that. That'll be some great information. And for all those people that are in our camp, stay strong, and we're going to see this thing through to the end. And like I told the Pennsylvania Game Commission last year in person, this isn't going away. What they did was terrible, one of the worst moves that the Pennsylvania Game Commission has ever done. Maybe right up there with shooting all the dough off back in the day. So anyway, Randy, that's it.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation. Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation, but we're, everybody out there, if you want to get on our Facebook group, it's Pennsylvania Hunters Against the Saturday Deer Opener. And we've mentioned this before. We have the coalition where people are emailing, which is rsantucci2022@gmail.com, or Dan Davila, which is his email is DAVILA2112@gmail.com. And if you email either one of those, it gets you into our group, and then we can keep in touch through a constant contact program, which we've been utilizing. But I want to thank everyone. We'll likely have a podcast before the first of the year. Before Christmas, probably is going to be pushing it a little. And if we don't, Merry Christmas to everyone, and have a very, very nice holiday. And hopefully we can pull our families together at home and be ready to pull them together again in the field, whether it be camps or so forth. But thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.